The following program is produced at and funded by Lyndon State College, the College of the Northeast Kingdom.
Coming up tonight on News 7.
We've got more results from yesterday's election.
In St. Johnsbury, the Republicans are starting to take over.
And the race for Vermont governor ended up a lot closer than some people expected.
Live from the Vermont Center for Community Journalism, this is News 7 at 5:30.
The race for governor of Vermont was a lot closer than most expected. Good evening, I'm Cortland Hanley.
And I'm Camille DeLongis. That's right. As final votes were tallied today, Governor Peter Shumlin maintained a narrow lead over Republican opponent Scott Milne. The race was too close to call and will be settled by the legislature. News 7's Taylor Young was in Burlington last night with Vermont Democrats and has all the details.
The governor stayed away from the Democratic gathering for 4 hours after the polls were closed because a clear...
The following program is produced at and funded by Lyndon State College, the College of the Northeast Kingdom.
Coming up tonight on News 7.
Elections are just a day away and candidates were out making that final push.
Cutting healthcare was the next step in the Fairpoint saga. Local employees have now been on strike for 16 days.
10-0, the St. Johnsbury Academy Hilltoppers are on a roll and on their way to the state championship. News 7 starts right now.
Live from the Vermont Center for Community Journalism, this is News 7 at 5:30.
Good evening. I'm Taylor Young. Fairpoint employees have been on strike for a little over 2 weeks now.
That's right, and the company still won't budge to negotiate the new contract. I'm Cortland Hanley, and in fact, the company actually cut off the strikers' health coverage as a whole. Strikers heard that the company would cut off their health insurance after October 31st if they remained on strike. With the coverage fully cut, strikers will now have to join health insurance under their spouse or find a new one altogether. Cobra and Marketplace are two options that employees are currently considering.
It's unfortunate for a lot of families. It's going to get extremely expensive for them to pay for health insurance, and probably a lot of people aren't going to be able to at this point. So it's kind of frightening for a lot of the younger families especially.
Bernie Sanders held a press conference last week asking that Fairpoint negotiate the contracts again with its workers.
Vermont Health Connect is also one of the options for the Fairpoint strikers. Those who are insured by Cobra will be able to voluntarily drop the insurance company to get a plan through Health Connect during open enrollment. Enrollment will take place next week from November 15th until February 15th. Users may then be determined eligible for financial help as well as cost-sharing reductions. Those interested can apply online or over the phone.
Two Republican candidates for House Representative sent a message to constituents accusing Democrats of attempting to take over your Medicare. John Madison and Valerie Mullen targeted Democratic Representatives Herb Russell, Dave Sharp, and Mike Fisher. According to Fisher, the misinformation isn't unfortunate, but attack ads do happen in the final days before elections. The Democratic Party accuses both Madison and Mullen of lying to Vermonters.
And Bruce Bona was back at the Caledonian Courthouse today for a pretrial hearing. Bona is defending himself and is asking for his 21 misdemeanor charges of animal abuse and negligence to be dropped. Bona was arrested in March of this year after 21 horses were removed from his ranch in Lyndon. 3 horses were pronounced dead while 21 were found emancipated. His case was postponed and is scheduled for the week of November 16th.
Power has been restored throughout Lyndonville after a car accident early Saturday morning. Vermont State Police say 23-year-old Joseph Galato drove into a utility pole in front of McDonald's on Route 5 around 12:30 a.m., knocking out power to numerous businesses and residents. Police say alcohol was a factor and Galato was arrested for DUI. He refused to provide a roadside breath sample and is set to appear in court on November 17th. We would also like to mention that Galato is a News 7 student meteorologist.
Senator Patrick Leahy was out touring Railroad Street in St. Johnsbury today and voiced his opinion on the Democratic Party for this election. Senator Leahy said that Democrats are facing a tough battle because millions of dollars have been thrown against their candidates by anonymous groups. He hopes the party focuses on health care in the state as well as continuing to lower the unemployment rate. Senator Leahy is rooting for candidates both on the local and state level.
I'm a native Vermonter. I'm hoping first and foremost that all people I'm supporting here in Vermont do well. And then we'll see how the rest of the country does. There's some wonderful people I serve with in the Senate who are up for re-election. I hope they all come back.
Senator Leahy will not be up for re-election until 2016, but he says working to clamp down on the NSA and making telephone record searches more transparent.
Lieutenant Governor Phil Scott started his 14-county tour early this morning. The Republican started in Montpelier and eventually made his way to St. Johnsbury. Local politicians made their way into town to support Scott. State Senator Joe Benning, Representative Marty Feltus, and candidate Jansen Wilhoit, as well as others, were in attendance. If re-elected, Scott plans to work on creating a stronger economy and reducing dependence on government. Scott is running up against Progressive Democrat Dean Corn and Marina Brown of the Liberty Union Party.
Today is the last day before elections, and candidates were out campaigning before polls open tomorrow morning. Republican candidates gathered today on Railroad Street to honk and wave to encourage voter participation and discuss last-minute planning strategies. Hank Parker, chair of the Caledonian County Republican Committee, said candidate volunteers will be at the Caledonian County Republican Committee office tomorrow to call voters and urge them to head to the polls.
And when people don't vote, they lose their opportunity to influence the issues and the people who represent them in their communities. So we are doing everything we can, doesn't matter who they vote for, but to urge people to exercise that privilege.
Parker says the call center will be open late tomorrow morning and remain open until polls close.
Connie Quimby was elected for state representative in 2012 and is currently running unopposed in this year's election. If re-elected, Quimby will be representing the town of Concord. She has been the primary sponsor of 55 bills as she served in her first term, focusing much of her efforts towards supporting war veterans and ordinary people in her district. If re-elected, she hopes to maintain being the voice of locals.
I don't have any real agenda except try to help people in the Northeast Kingdom if I can. We are a very small cog in a large wheel, so whatever I can do to help the people here.
Quimby says if she wins, it will mean another year of hard work, and she'll start by getting a feel of what's coming before the legislature year.
And the race for Caledonia County Sheriff is now a two-candidate race. Independent Joel Pierce stated that he is no longer interested in becoming the Sheriff of Caledonia County. Pierce said he could run in the future but wants to develop his skills as a police officer. As a result, the race is now between Independent Danielle Kastruba and incumbent Dean Shatney. The winner will take office on February 1st.
Due to a non-presidential voter turnout, rates could be low. According to the 2010 census, the voting population was less than 500,000 people. Those numbers are even less now. The Vermont Secretary of State's office shows that roughly 440,000 Vermonters are registered to vote in this upcoming election. Voter turnout rates are also expected to be lower due to a non-Senate year election. A Danville woman was granted a second absentee ballot, but it wasn't easy. Lisa Carlson says her elderly parents were misinformed about absentee balloting, and as a result, she made a mistake filling out the form. The town clerk's office originally said a second ballot could not be obtained, but according to the Vermont Secretary of State's office, if an absentee voter makes a mistake and spoils a ballot, the voter may request another ballot twice. Linden Town Clerk Don Dwyer admits that the office made a mistake, but Carlson was the only voter affected. And now Francis McInerney joins us with a first look at our forecast. Francis, I know a few towns nearby have seen some snow. Is it our turn for some snow, or is the sunshine set for a return?
Well, I wouldn't expect any snow quite yet. In fact, we could expect a warm-up in temperatures over the next few days. I'll talk more about that in a moment, but first, your current temperatures are about 38 degrees under partly to mostly cloudy skies, with the winds remaining calm for the most part. And if we look at our current Temperatures across New England, you can see that they're pretty warm down south, where it's 59 in New York and 56 over in Williamsport, but then it's much cooler up in the northern parts of New England, where you can see it's 45 in Burlington and 46 over in Lebanon. And then for our satellite radar, you can see it's been pretty clear for the most part. We are tracking some clouds off to our west, but expect skies to remain pretty clear for the most part this evening. For your first forecast tonight, lows will be in the mid to upper 20s under mostly clear skies with a southerly wind. And then by tomorrow, expect partly cloudy skies with a slight chance of some rain in the afternoon, with temperatures right around 50 degrees with a southerly wind at about 5 to 10 miles per hour. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Francis. And with winter approaching, Lyndonville has already issued a parking ban.
Skiers and snowboarders have their fingers crossed that the snow will begin to fall soon as they get ready for the season. One local business created an event where riders can get some new gear.
In just one more game, St. Johnsbury Academy will face Rutland on Saturday. We'll show you what the Hilltoppers did over the weekend to get there.
The next 30